Today, what I want to talk to you about is every man is the boy he was. And I want to unpack why so many men struggle with self worth and what to actually do to rebuild that. I want to share with you the single most important thing that you need to understand if you want to improve your self worth and your self esteem. This one shift actually changed my life. And there's going to be some dimensional shifts that I'm going to talk about as well. It's going to hit home for a lot of men. Your self worth answers the question, do I matter? That's the question that your self worth answers. Do I matter? So without that, a man is just going to drift. That's what's going to happen. He looks for validation in work. He looks for validation in women. He works for validation in his achievements. And when you know your self worth and you have self esteem, you're going to live out of identity instead of insecurity. It affects your decision making. God gives you worth, and your choices give you self respect. Okay? It allows a man to show up steady, it allows a man to show up present. He shows up trustworthy inside of his relationships because he has self worth and self esteem. Men without self worth, they're either going to disappear or they're going to dominate. Okay? Men with self worth, they're going to lead. Without self esteem, the pressures of life are going to break that man down. He's going to lack resilience. He can't bounce back because he doesn't believe that he matters. Okay? Self worth lets a man receive God's love instead of running from it. Self-esteem will help him act like a son of God. A man cannot lead others past where he is. So if he doesn't have self-worth, he will doubt and he will second guess his decisions. A man with self-worth is going to lead from confidence and not from control. So if you don't see your value, then you're going to trade it cheap. Now, every man is the boy that he was. Inside of every single man is the little boy who asks those questions. Am I enough? Okay? Do I matter? Will someone show up for me? If those questions were answered with presence, if they were answered with love, if they were answered with affirmation, that boy is going to grow up into a man with confidence. He's going to be the boy he was. But if those questions, am I enough? Do I matter? Will someone show up for me? If those questions are answered with absence or neglect, rejection or shame, then that boy is going to grow up into a man who is still searching for worth. A boy's wounds will show up in a man's habits. So as that boy grows up, his wounds are going to show up in the habits that he has, in his people-pleasing habits, his anger, his withdrawal, his anxious pursuit of approval, conflict avoidance, performance, perfectionism, his numbing, the habits of numbing out with food or pornography or workaholism or alcohol or success. This is something we really need to consider because story is playing out in the life of every boy. I think that if you know someone who is a father or is a man or has a son, share this with them. I want to share a little bit of my story right now in hopes that it will help you. I was the last of 7 kids. My dad was absent. My mom was very unstable. They were kind of done when I showed up. Now, my father, from him, I really got nothing. I got no identity. I got no validation. I got no security. He was a material provider. That's what he was. And he was a good one. And to him, that was being a good father because given he did not have that a lot really well when he was a child. He didn't have security and stability. So he grew up and wanted to give that. And that's what he gave. Now, from my mom, some days I got love. Some days I got anger. Some days I got disrespect. She was totally and completely unpredictable. I could not trust what she was going to be. It made me very hyper vigilant. I had to try to guess what was going to happen. And so, because of this absenteeism of my father and my mother, who was unstable, and the lack of security, the lack of identity, the lack of validation, the lack of love, the lack of consistency, I learned a few things. I learned I don't matter. I learned I'm not good enough. I learned I'm unsafe. I learned I'm incapable. I can't trust anyone. I learned I'm alone. I learned I will be abandoned. I learned I will be betrayed. Some of these things were meant to be not fixed, but they weren't meant to exist. Okay? Like, for example, presence says I matter. When someone is present, that tells a boy that he matters. When he's showing up, when that dad is present, it shows that son that he matters. Okay? Affirmation says I'm good enough. Boundaries, when parents place boundaries, they're actually teaching those children that they are safe. Guidance, when they take time to give guidance and direction and not allow the drift. That child doesn't walk away learning I'm incapable. They have learned over and over again that they actually are capable and they can navigate anything and learn and grow. When that belonging comes, belonging says I am not alone. I'll never be left alone. But what I learned overall, because of the absence of all of this, is I was not worth showing up for. Now that's a huge paradigm. That's a horrible place for a boy to be, because when he believes that he is not worth showing up for, he also learns that he doesn't show up for himself. So this is going to create a man, when that boy grows up, that self-abandons. He doesn't know how to show up for himself. In fact, he may even think it's selfish to do so. So the presence of a father says I'm worth showing up for. The nurture of a mother teaches a boy that he is lovable. The affirmation says you've got what it takes. I'm proud of you. You're good enough. Okay? Those words of affirmation, if they're missing, the silence from that is taken as rejection by a boy. He develops a rejection mindset. Okay? Boundaries give him that safety. Discipline teaches him I am guided, so I'm not abandoned because I'm actually being given direction and guidance. And if that discipline is too harsh, he's going to learn shame. Okay? If there's no discipline at all, he's going to feel unseen. He's going to feel unworthy of guidance. And so he's going to have these core beliefs that I'm unseen, I'm unworthy, I'm abandoned, I'm alone. So, when parents give focused attention, they're listening, playing, being present, that boy is going to learn I am worth someone's time. And without that, he is going to feel invisible, and he is going to grow up looking for belonging in unhealthy places and relationships. A boy also needs, he needs, I almost said remodeling. A boy needs modeling. A boy watches how his parents treat themselves, and he watches how they treat each other. Okay? How a parent treats, like he watches how his dad treats himself. If his father respects himself and honors his mother, that boy's going to learn dignity. But if that boy witnesses, if what he sees witnessed is shame and avoidance and abuse, he's going to internalize that as normal because that's all that he sees. Okay? Boys need opportunities to try. They need opportunities to try and fail. So when a boy is allowed to try and fail and be encouraged to try again after he fails, he builds self-esteem. If failure is mocked, if he's punished because he messes up, he learns these ideas. I'm stupid. I can't do it. Okay? He doesn't see failure as part of growth, as part of, he sees failure as demise. A boy needs a spiritual foundation as well. He has to know that he is created in God's image, and that's super important because his earthly father is going to be gone one day. Obviously, everyone is going to pass from this earth. But if that boy has a spiritual foundation, knowing that he's created in God's image, that's going to anchor him to something that is deeper than human approval. And you have to have that, because that is what's called worth. Now, if he doesn't have that, he's going to be left to find other gods to give him worth. If he does not get, I want you to hear that again. A boy has to have that spiritual foundation. That's his anchor. He has to know that he's created in the image of God, because that is going to anchor him to something. It's going to anchor his worth to something that is deeper than human approval, or to someone, God. And if he doesn't have that, if he's not anchored, if his worth is not anchored to God, something deeper than human approval, then he is going to be left to find other gods to give him his worth. So performance and possessions or people, okay? So self-worth in a boy comes from being shown that he matters. A boy is going to learn his worth by how others show up for him. Presence, affirmation, modeling, all of those things. And self-esteem. Now that's self-worth. The self-worth comes when he is shown that he matters, okay? That people show up. That self-esteem comes from being guided through choices and learning he can do hard things. So you've got two things there, self-worth and self-esteem. So when people don't show up for a child, that is abandonment, okay? Not a physical abandonment. It can be, it can include that, but really it's abandonment. What I'm wired to need from caregivers, what I'm wired to need, significance, that I matter, modeling, guidance, affirmation, love, unconditional acceptance. When I don't get that, I've been abandoned. And that child is going to grow up and he's not going to show up for himself either. So the boy that he was is still in the man that he is. So when he grows into a man, he's going to do one of two things, okay? There's two paths for him to take. He's either going to become very hyper independent, so he becomes performance driven, he's fixing, he's pleasing, he's competing, okay? Or he becomes deeply insecure, where he's always comparing, he's never enough, he's always questioning his value. And that was me. No self-worth, no self-esteem, no presence, no affirmation, no belonging, no attention, no significance. So I didn't know that I mattered. I didn't know I was good enough. So because I didn't know that I mattered and I didn't know I was good enough, I lived my life searching for worth in all the wrong places. My mother passed at 17, my dad when I was 27. I went out very young on my own. And I just went into the world. I lived my life searching for worth in all the wrong places. I did it through performance. I did it through people pleasing. I did it I worked for the approval of women. I developed unhealthy habits from chronic lying to appear more valuable to people. Okay, I had to make up stuff because who I wasn't enough. So I had to come up with stuff, right, to make myself. It's called image management. Okay, I had to manage my image. So I had never learned to be successful or have anything that I could actually gain worth or value from. So I had to create things. I had to make stuff up that would cause me to appear more valuable or more important than I actually was. I developed porn addictions and food addictions to cope with pain that I was having, because when you have these beliefs, I don't matter, I'm not good enough, I'm excluded, I'm rejected, I'm unloved, I'm unwanted, I'm not important. You have those belief systems are working in the background as an internal operating system. And when that happens, those beliefs are going to lead to thoughts about God, yourself, and others. And then those thoughts are going to lead to emotions, a lot of negative emotions. It's pain and suffering. And those negative emotions abound. Okay? Sad, discouraged, despair, um, disheartened, um, hopeless. And those negative emotions, you have to do something with them. And if you're not taught to process them in healthy ways, which is trying, actually changing your belief system, having a good belief system so that you have good thoughts, so that your emotions are positive and not so much negative. But when you don't know what to do with all that negativity, you learn to either numb it out with stuff and distract it. So you're choosing drugs, or you're choosing distractions like doom scrolling and media and all that, or you go to things that make you feel good. You need pleasure, so you go to things like porn addiction and food addiction, and you're coping. Those are coping mechanisms. So deep down, I carried these beliefs that I wasn't worth showing up for. And because of that, I didn't even know how to show up for myself. And I lived either proving myself all the time through performance, or drowning in insecurity and always questioning if I had value. And I know that's a huge foundation for where we're going right now, but I want you to see kind of the pathway. And it's a dimensional pathway, because there was a shift that took place. And I think the first dimension of that shift came from God himself. When God, for me, became Father. Okay? We have God in the Old Testament, God in the Old Covenant, but in the New Covenant, the New Testament, it's what great love the Father hath bestowed on us, that he would call us the sons of God. So his identity for us reveals our worth. Okay? That's the first thing. I realize that a man's worth is not manufactured. It's received. And it's received by the very relationship that God gives us. So God becomes a man. Why? So he can provide a way for us to come into him. And then when we're born again, now we have a new father. It's an entrance into a relationship. So it's not God to saints, it's father to sons. All right? That mattered immensely to me. I realized that all of the things I was believing about myself had become strongholds in my mind. They were negative core beliefs that were impacting my thoughts, my emotions, and my actions, but they were coming out of a lack of identity from those who just didn't show up in my life. Those things were toxic agreements. They were not sourced from God. They didn't come from the Father, and the word Father means source. They were not in alignment with what God was saying about me. So my value, my worth, my acceptance, my approval, which was rooted in my sonship. So I had to start believing what God said about me. You are my son. You are loved. You are chosen. And that was before any performance. Look, when Jesus was baptized, the heavens opened, the Spirit descended, and a voice said, "This is my beloved Son in whom I'm well pleased." I realized, I got a revelation that I was not an orphan. I wasn't someone that didn't matter. My identity had to be exchanged. I was a beloved son of God. And that word beloved is powerful, because it doesn't mean loved, it means beloved, which literally means created for love. God is love, and he wanted a place for his love to land, so he made me. I am the beloved of God. And I call this my identity exchange. Every man has to have this identity exchange. This is the foundation. Without that foundation, you're going to crumble. God was now my father. A lot of people wonder why in the world I insist on that. It's because that is the frequency of the new covenant. The new covenant, the new covenant is between father and son. All right? And he was beginning to give me everything that I never got from my earthly father. In fact, this allowed me to have compassion on my earthly father, to see where he was coming from in his life and why he was broken, and that broken people break people and hurt people, and he was doing the best he could with what he had. I began to see all of that actually I was grateful, because all of the places where my father lacked, my heavenly father had a place to land. Okay? Well, in other words, this is so amazing to me, because I have the presence of a father with me all the time. He's not out here. I don't pray like this with trying to get God to come down. He's in me. I don't have to earn it. I don't have to scream and, God, I need you, Jesus. Lord, help me right now. No, I talk to him just like a son does a dad. What is prayer? Conversations with a father. Teach us to pray. Jesus would pray. He would have conversations with the Father. He said, I only do that which I see my Father do. I say that which I hear my Father say. He's coming out from prayer, meeting up with the disciples and establishing the kingdom of God. And they're like, teach us to pray. Well, didn't they know how to pray? They were Jews. They were Jews. They were very known for prayer, but their prayer was ineffective. The Pharisees prayed and fasted and gave, but something happened when he said, teach us to pray. And what a revelation Jesus gave them when he said, pray, our Father. Now at that time, our Father who art in heaven. Well, Jesus had not yet ascended and then come inside of them. In right now for us, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John are actually Old Testament. After the cross, it's Christ in us. So it's not our Father who art in heaven, it's our Father who is in us. Okay? So I have presence. I have affirmation. You're my beloved son. Jesus, before he ever did anything in the ministry, he was already loved. He was accepted. He was approved. He was loved not because of his performance, but because of who God is. God is love. So he got guidance. I began to receive guidance, all right, from the word. I got modeling from seeing in scripture how this was. I got guidance from the Spirit of Christ that's in me. I now belong. I belong to a family. I belong to him. I have a father. I have a mother, the church who is the mother of us all. I had brothers and sisters. Now there's a belonging. Okay? So all of this presence, affirmation, guidance, belonging, modeling, all of that says to the little boy in me that never got any of that, I see you. You matter. I will not abandon you. You're not alone. You are capable. You are able. I love you. That was the first dimension. The identity exchange was the first dimension. And the second dimension was, now that I received his love and established that identity, I started to love myself as he loved me. I'm kind of laying out the pathway for you right now. I started to love myself as he loved me. I started giving myself all of the same things that he was giving to me. I started to give myself presence. I started to show up for myself. I started to give myself compassion. Well, love is patient. Love is kind. God is love. So I learned to be patient and kind with myself as I was setting on the journey of transformation and knowing him and growing in him and growing up in all things in him. He validated me, so I gave myself validation. I had to address the little boy inside of me. And I partnered with God. I partnered as a labor with God to bring this healing into my life through relationship. Healing comes through relationship. Relationship with God, relationship with myself, relationship with others. So you have a relational grid. What's your relationship with God? What's your relationship with yourself? And what is your relationship with others? So healing manhood starts with healing boyhood. That's the way this works. It is slow, but it's so needed. It's layered, it's dimensional. But I got a few coaches that helped me along the way. I got a few resources. And of course, primarily, I learned how to have conversations with the Father. I learned how to talk to the Father. I learned to face the lies, okay, and replace the lies with the truth. You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. I learned the truth about myself, okay, that in the ideal, wonderful world, our parents would echo the truth of God to us about ourselves, about Him, about others. But I didn't have that. And so lies were there, and I was literally under the father of lies. Well, I was born again, but I still had the same mind of the little boy. So I was seated in Christ. I was complete in Him. I am approved. I'm accepted. I'm all these things. But in my mind, I'm not. I'm having to rewire this. I had to let my mind be renewed by the Word of God. That's not by the Bible. It's by the words that He's speaking to me as a father. I am chosen. I am loved. I am wanted. I am valued. I call this dimension my fear exchange. Okay, because I lived under fear. Paul said, should we return again to bondage under fear? Talking about being sons of God in Romans chapter 8. It's like, I'm afraid I'm rejected. I'm afraid I won't be loved. I'm afraid no one likes me. I'm afraid I'm excluded. I'm afraid I don't matter. I'm afraid I will never matter. I'm afraid I'll never have value. I'm afraid no one sees me. I'm afraid no one hears me. I'm afraid, I'm afraid, I'm afraid, I'm afraid. Well, I started naming those fears to my Father. Father, right now I'm afraid that I'm going to be rejected. And then He'll say, well, you're accepted in me. I can't tell you how many times I've had that conversation. Worst case scenario, they reject you. Who anchors you? I do. I started exchanging my fear for love. Okay? Perfect love casts out fear. So this is where God began to undo the rejection mindset that plagued me every single day. The people pleasing, the anxious pursuit of validation and approval from everyone all the time. And this is where where I learned to start building self-esteem and self-worth in real time every single day. So I settled the love thing between me and God, and then I settled it with myself. And this empowers ministry because now I can love others freely and openly because of His love for me, my love for myself. Love others as you love yourself. When I settled these issues, it empowered me to really minister to people with open heart, with open hands, with an open relationship, understanding, with mercy and grace, and all of the things that the Spirit provides for us and wants us to minister to others. Okay? Loving them, charity, giving, serving, but not to earn approval, not because I must, not out of obligation, not out of duty, but love, stirred by the love of God. Now, on a daily basis, I had to learn something because even though I had my worth settled by God and my identity settled by God, the self-esteem in real time every day was a challenge for me because I was not equipped for that. I want you to listen close. Self-esteem is not a state that you're stuck in. It's reinforced. Okay, catch this. The lack of self-esteem requires reinforcement. How do you reinforce a lack of self-esteem? By making bad choices. Okay? By doing what you already know is not good for you. So every poor choice that I would make, even though I had my identity and my worth settled, my self-esteem was still low because I had not learned to make good choices. Every poor choice would whisper, I'm broken, I'm not worthy, I'm not smart enough, something's wrong with me. And that's the mechanism. That's why you don't break out of it. You may have your identity understood. You may have your self-worth established by God. But if you don't break the cycle of no self-esteem, you will remain dysfunctional in real time. And here's the crazy part about this. People think that the way out is to make things bad enough that they'll finally be forced to change. I lived there for years. I wouldn't change anything until I wouldn't make good choices. I would just make enough bad choices that the pain got so bad, or the hurt, or the consequences were so severe that I finally had to make a choice. It's like people who, and if this steps on on your toes, I'm not trying to do that, but it's like people who are told, well, you know, you're pre-diabetic, you're pre-diabetic, you're pre-diabetic, and they make no decisions until now they're full-blown diabetic and they're having serious issues, and then they change their diet because they haven't learned to make good choices. I lived there for years, and that cycle will never break until you realize it's a choice. And the reason I was stuck there was I grew up believing I was powerless and I was trapped and I had no control over anything. So every bad decision erodes your self-esteem. So I didn't think I had a choice. I didn't know how to make good choices. Every bad decision is going to erode your self-esteem, and every good decision is going to build it. When you're questioning whether or not you have value in your relationship, in the kingdom, in your family, in your work environment, you just don't feel confident about yourself. It's not that you're stuck in that low place all the time. The reason you stay there is because of the reinforcement mechanism that creates and sustains this lack of self-esteem. So you're questioning, I don't have value in this relationship, in in the kingdom of God, in my family, in the work environment. It's not because you don't feel confident about yourself. It's just that you are stuck because of that reinforcement mechanism. And that reinforcement is this: making decisions and choices that you know are not good for you. You have to break out of that. That is the mechanism that reinforces a lack of self-esteem and a lack of self-worth. Every single man that I've ever worked with who lacks self-esteem, including myself when I didn't have a very good sense of self-esteem, made terrible decisions. Okay? Those terrible decisions reinforce the belief that there's something wrong with me. I'm broken. I'm not worthy of this relationship. I can't do this. I'm not capable. I'm alone. I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough. I'm a failure. You make decisions that reinforce those beliefs. Every man knows the difference between the decision that reinforces I lack confidence, value, and worth, and the decision that propels him into a different direction. Yet when we make the bad choice, that reinforces the lack of self-esteem. And here's the mind-boggling part about this, okay? Every person who lacks self-esteem and self-worth makes these poor decisions with this hope that when they get found out or when things blow up badly enough, they're finally going to create the change they've been looking for. And that this is an insidious mechanism of self-esteem. It not only reinforces itself, but then it convinces you that the way to change is to make things bad enough that you're forced to do so. Okay? I can't even tell you how many times I've driven myself crazy and pushed myself into ruin over and over again trying to figure this out. That cycle's never going to break until you realize it. It's a choice. Every decision to act out of integrity is a choice. Every decision to eat junk food is a choice. Every decision to text that woman you know you shouldn't text is a choice. Every decision to spend money you don't have is a choice. Those are choices that erode your self-worth and your self-esteem. And they will never lead you toward a life of value and confidence, even if you know that you're a son of God, and even if you know you have self-worth. If you don't learn to make choices in alignment with that value and that identity, then you will never lead a life toward that value and that identity. So you can know it, you can have an awareness that I'm a son of God, I'm a child of God, I have worth inherently. But if you don't make choices, you have to recognize you have to make choices in alignment with that. You're not powerless ever. You are not powerless ever. You can always make a choice. You can always make a good choice. So here's the truth. My identity comes from God. My worth and my value come from God. But my self-esteem and my self-worth, this is the self part. Not worth, but my self-worth. All right? My self-esteem and my self-worth are predicated on my choices. Men with exceptional self-esteem are not better than you. They're not smarter than you. They're not more special than you. They simply make different choices. So when faced with decisions, here's the question. Do I keep reinforcing that I lack value, or do I choose to show myself that I actually appreciate and like myself? Those guys choose the latter. I actually appreciate and like myself. I see the appreciation. That's value. I see the appreciation. Things that appreciate, they increase in value. I see my value. I like myself. I love myself because God loves me, and I'm making these decisions out of self-love. Not selfish love, but out of self-love. I'm going to ask you a question, okay? I'm going to ask you a question. Fill in the blank. If I really valued myself, I would, ... If I really valued myself, I would, ... Okay? I'd stop going back to relationships that drain me and start waiting for someone who respects me. Okay? If I really valued myself, I would what? Take my health seriously and eat clean and move my body and drop the habits that numb me. If I really valued myself, I would say no to the things that compromise my integrity, even if it costs me comfort or approval. If I valued myself, I would face the hard conversations I've been avoiding instead of hiding in silence. If I valued myself, I would invest in my growth. I would read. I would learn. I'd get coaching. I'd surround myself with men who call me higher. Well, okay, so you choose that. You just admitted the exact thing that you need to do to start developing that self-worth and that self-esteem. Make some good decisions or choices in alignment with what you value. That makes you respectable in your own eyes. What do you see as respectable in men that you respect? Godly men, men that are respectable to you. What are the values that you see there? And if you valued yourself, you would do them now. You would do you would make choices in alignment with those values. So what would you do physically, spiritually, mentally, financially, relationally, if you really valued yourself? This is where self-esteem and self-worth come from. You've got the identity figured out, okay? And you've got the worth from God figured out. But the self-esteem and the self-worth is happening right here in real time in life around you every day. So if you really valued yourself, spiritually, would you spend time with God daily instead of scrolling when you wake up and checking your Facebook or checking your Instagram or checking your social media or the news first thing when you get up in the morning? Okay, if you really valued yourself, would you say no to sin patterns that are leaving you feeling empty and probably hurting people around you? If you valued yourself, if you valued yourself, would you step into serving in the way that you're gifted instead of sitting back in fear? What about physically? If you valued yourself, would you treat your body like it matters? Sleeping well, eating well, Stop abusing substances, food, alcohol, porn. Okay? They steal your strength. If I value myself, I'd schedule health checkups instead of ignoring the warning signs. You have to make good choices in alignment, okay, with your values. Get your value system and start making good choices. When you make good choices, you build your self-worth and self-esteem, and that's what makes you functional. Okay? If you valued yourself, you would be honest about your feelings instead of numbing them. Stop attaching your worth to other people's approval. Let yourself feel the grief and the anger and the sadness instead of bottling it all up and suppressing it. Okay? Financially, if you value yourself, you'd stop living paycheck to paycheck and start budgeting. You'd cut out spending that impresses other people and focus on building security and investing in things that grow you, not just things that entertain you. You would take care of orphans and widows and the voiceless and the fatherless and help people in need and operate mentally. If you valued yourself, would you read and learn every day instead of wasting hours in distraction and change the lies that you believed about yourself and get help like coaching or counseling or mentorship instead of pretending that you're just fine? What about your relationships? If you valued yourself, okay, are there situations that you might step back from or you might step into? You would show up as the man that your wife needs and your kids need, present and patient and loving and kind, and stop avoiding hard conversations that you've had with friends and family. So this is what I'm saying. Make choices in alignment with those values. Find out what the values are that you are getting from God with yourself, what you see as respectable, and start rebuilding a new you. Okay, where self-esteem is built on the back of decisions that you know are good for you. It's that simple and it's that hard. It's that simple and it's that hard because when you reach that moment of choice, okay, of making the choice, there will always be massive resistance toward doing the right thing. And the right thing is usually the hard thing. But that's what you were never taught, maybe, and that is do the hard stuff. Like when it's hard, lean into it. When it's difficult, lean into it. Don't avoid. Don't become passive. Don't neglect. If it's hard, it probably matters. That's the turning point. When you reach that moment of choice, there will be massive resistance toward doing what is right. That right thing, that good choice in alignment with your values, and that's the turning point. I never had a dad present to show me how to do the hard stuff, to make a good choice and then do it. That became my training ground. I just drifted. I never made hard decisions. I never made tough choices. I never pushed through very difficult things. So small everyday decisions is what's going to retrain you. Not huge life-altering ones. You'll get to those. But you got to do them on the lower levels, the low-stakes decisions. Rather than, it's like, I'm not going to eat fried chicken. I'm going to have grilled chicken. That's a good choice if it's in alignment with your values and your value, all right, your appreciation. That's a good choice. So my question for you today is, will you make the decision? Not can you. I know you can, okay? But will you make the decision that you already know is good for you? Now, I want you to take some time, and you can pause this if you need to, but I want you to write down this question, okay? And then maybe get some alone time and answer. What decisions and choices do you already know you need to make that are in the best interest, that are in your best interest, that will reinforce your worth, your value, and your self-esteem? What decisions and choices do I already know that I need to make that are in the best interest, that are in my best interest and will reinforce my worth, my value, and my self-esteem. Find one, find two, find three of them. You don't have to have 20 of them. Just find three of them this week that you've been avoiding and execute on them today, tomorrow, this coming week. Because self-worth and self-esteem are the byproduct of multiple choices that you know are going to lead to better outcomes. And when you make choices that reinforce, I'm not worthy, I'm not valuable, something's wrong with me, that's going to erode your self-esteem. But when you realize it all comes down to your choices, then you know the battleground. This is your war ground. And the Father will give you strength. Ask him, do you have strength to do this? And he will say, yes. And then you posture yourself, I receive your strength to carry out this decision. You got to slow down. You don't make decisions and then just they automatically, you do them all. No, you make decisions and then you battle and fight. The decisions you make are the battle that you do fight. So when you take a stand and make the right choice, not picking up the junk food, pausing to inquire of the Lord, not scrolling for media for hours, not texting that woman, not opening that porn tab, planning that date with your wife, scheduling a coaching session. You're reinforcing your self-esteem, your confidence, your worth, and your value. And that starts with conversations with your Father. So don't wait for life to blow up for it to change. You're not powerless. God gives you that worth, but your choices prove to yourself that you believe it. Did you hear me? God gives you identity and worth, but your choices prove to yourself that you believe it. So I just want to end by saying this. Go be who God designed you to be. God bless you.